Today, I see a lot of people, and I'm not saying I'm completely, I'm guilty of this as well, but there's a lot of Christians today that are not Christians, they're just religious. Now, when I say that, I don't mean they serve the Pope or something. What I mean is they're not peculiar. We have lost a lot of our peculiarity in our Christianity. God didn't say He wanted a religious people, He said He wanted a peculiar people to Himself. What do I mean by religious? Well, what do you do that makes you Christian? Well, I go to church. I read my religious book. I read the Bible. I pray. I try to be nice to people. That's literally like 95% of religion. Basically, every religion says do those things. Sometimes they'll have extra steps, but basically that's the basis of all religions. What I'm really trying to get down to is our standards today and all the things that we should be peculiar on and all the things that would make us unique to God are thrown out. We watch the same movies as the world, listen to the same music, we know the same celebrities, we watch the same YouTubers, we read the same books, we wear the same clothes. All the things that we do are just the same thing as the world. The only difference between us and the average religious person is that instead of believing in, Allah or whatever, and the Muslims are even more, peculiar than we are to their religion because they really, they really try. And I think if we had some Christians that had the fervor that a lot of those Muslims have, we'd have a lot better Christianity. But regardless of that, today, are you really a Christian? Are you peculiar to God, or are you just religious? What if we look at your Spotify, if we looked at your Apple Music, iTunes, whatever, if we went on there and we played music, if we held your Spotify account up next to the Spotify account of any religious person, any worldly person, would it look any different? Would there be any difference at all? And how different? Would it be, there's a few Christian songs on there, and they have Mercy Me or whatever nonsense you have on there, on that playlist. Would it be any different? If we looked in your wardrobe, if we looked in your dresser, would your clothing be any different than the world's? Would it have any modesty to it? Would it have any godliness to it? Or would it just be the same nonsense brands and the same fads and all that junk? If we looked at your phone, and we looked at the layout of your phone and the apps you use the most, if we looked at your screen time, if we looked at my screen time, would our screen times, held up to the average just worldly person, would they be any different? Would they be any different? And not just would they be a little bit different. I'm not asking that. It comes down to this. Would they be peculiar? Would they be so different that the world would have to stop and say, what in the world is going on with that person's phone? What in the world is going on with that person's music? What is this? What is this clothing you're wearing? Or would it pass? Because I think that's what a lot of us do nowadays. We want our things, our little habits and our little idols to pass. We don't want them to be totally wicked. We're not that bad. But we want our clothing, we want our music to be able to. I saw a playlist a while ago. I can't remember where I saw it on Spotify. I was just browsing through Spotify one time and I saw a playlist made by somebody that was literally called like Christian music that doesn't sound Christian, and the description was like to play around, your unchristian friends and trick them or some nonsense. It wasn't that exact wording, but basically the sentiment was that Christian music that doesn't sound Christian but actually is, so that we can, so that it passes by the world's notice. Is that what you're trying to do in your life? Are you trying to live a life that just kind of slips by and nobody really notices? You're still, I serve God. You didn't notice. I go to church, I do these things, but during the week, you just try to pass by. You try not to get noticed. You try to just sneak on through the censors and just be the same as everybody else when it comes down to it. It's really sad that we have come to the point where people that call themselves Christians are making playlists like that. And even if you aren't going to make a playlist like that, I think our sentiments nowadays are often, man, I hope they don't realize I'm a Christian. Man, I hope they don't think I'm weird. When we say that, when we say, I hope they don't think I'm weird, I think it hurts God a little bit. Because we are saying, I care more about what this random person thinks of me than what I do about my God. That's what you're saying. You're saying, man, I hope that the lifestyle I have chosen does not offend this person. And you're more worried about offending that person than you are about offending God by not reaching that person. I challenge you, and I want to look into my own life, and I want us to think, what am I doing that actually makes me peculiar to God? Or am I just doing a bunch of religious gestures and then living with the world? Today, be peculiar. Don't settle for being the average Christian that just kind of camouflages themselves into the world. Don't be a secret agent Christian today. Be peculiar. You should stick out like a sore thumb by your dress, by your standards, by the music you listen to. People should not just be able to pass over you and not notice anything different. That's a disgrace to God. That's a disgrace to Jesus. That's a disgrace to the sacrifice Jesus made. He was made a mockery of men. He was put indecent in public. He was mocked. He was beaten. He was beaten to such a pulp that he literally didn't even look human, the Bible says. And you can't wear modest clothing. You can't listen to good Christian music, not the nonsense that's getting put out today that's just the worldly music repackaged. And I gotta make a video on that. There's so many videos I want to make. I'm just busy, but it's sad today how lukewarm and wicked our society has gotten. And not just our society. Our society has always been bad. I'm talking about Christianity. About the peculiar people, the ones that are supposed to be peculiar. Today, just be peculiar to God, man. He's not asking for that much. He's not asking you for you to be a freak. He's not asking for that. He's just asking you to be different, to obey Him, to do things to honor Him. It's not that hard to do. Well, it actually is hard. It's impossible. You need God's help today. But let's today purpose in our hearts. You know what, God? I don't want to be a camouflage Christian anymore. I want to be peculiar. Let's purpose that in our hearts, and God will bless that, because that is what we need today. We don't need people to blend in. The world already has. If the world's music and the world's dress, and I know I keep going on and on, but this is just a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. If the world's dress and the world's music and all these things, if they really help the world, if they were really good, then why don't we do them too? You know in your heart that that music, that clothing, that all that stuff is wrong. You know in your heart that that attitude and that commercialism and all that nonsense that you are pursuing is wrong. You know it. What it comes down to is us admitting that and saying, you know what, even though it's comforting to me to do these things, it's wrong and I'm not going to do it anymore. Be peculiar.